Hi there. Today, let's talk about parasite protection. Parasites in the insect world include ticks and leeches. They find a host and suck their blood to survive. So essentially, in terms of websites, you are the host, and somebody out there is the parasite. It's the same in the digital world. You have other people who are linking to your images, your videos, and other big files. This is not to be confused with backlinks. These are not people who are linking to your site because your site is a good resource for them. Think instead the dark side of it. These are people who are linking to you because they're either claiming your images, your videos, and your big files as theirs. So, you might be thinking, why would somebody do that at all? You didn't authorize them. However, that's very common nowadays. If you think about it, if you've got images on your website, most likely Google has indexed your images into their Google image search engine, and somebody else has come along to the image on the search engine they found it. They look for an image and they might think, oh, I like that image. I'm going to use that on my website. They might give you credit, which is great, but that's far and few. Most likely, they might think, well, I like this image. I'm going to link to it and I'm going to put it on my web host. If you get too many of those, eventually, they begin to use your server resources that you pay for. They're not paying for it. You're paying for it. And then they use your videos and your bandwidth that you pay for. So, keeping that in mind, you're going to need to protect yourself. Like I said, what ends up happening is that you would be spending money on more web hosting resources. To protect yourself from this is by using what we call cPanel, which is a very popular web hosting panel that most web hosting companies use. Now, if you don't have cPanel, this might mean that most probably your web hosting company have rebranded cPanel to look like their own brand. So you should probably still have it. But if not, usually you could find the hot linking feature that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. Remember, sometimes hosting companies will have their own hot linking feature. Essentially, what it does is it disables people from becoming a parasite of your website and using your server resources. So, if your web hosting company doesn't use cPanel, they may have a hot linking feature. If they don't, you can always message them and say, hey, do you have a hot link protection? Now, let me show you step by step how to implement this. What you want to do is go ahead and log into your cPanel. If you need to do that, go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you are already in your cPanel. To get to hot link protection, all you need to do is simply scroll down and go to the security section here. We see hot link protection, so go ahead and click on that. If you look at it, it says hot link protection prevents other websites from directly linking to you. We don't need to enable it yet, but what we need to do is enter the URL to allow access. Let's say, for example, we use yourdomain.com. What you want to do is enter yourdomain.com, and then anytime yourdomain.com accesses the image, it's okay. However, anytime somebody else that is not yourdomain.com accesses your site, then they will be denied. What you want to do is put yourdomain.com here, and that should be it. But if you use www or you have HTTPS, you could add that as well. Hypothetically, that shouldn't really matter, but we'll do that here just to make sure. Remember, these are just variations of yourdomain.com. We can enter that here. And let's say that you want another site to have access. Let's say you have yourseconddomain.com. You can put it as https://yourseconddomain.com. Let's say, for example, that you have a sister site, and that sister site is okay to access your images. You want to enter that here. Basically, what you're telling the system is these domains are okay to access these images or whatever files that is. If you want to add, let's say, an MP4 file, if you have videos on your site and you only want these sites to access them, you want to make sure that you have the file formats inside here. Another thing is if there are zip files, downloadable zip files, you want to put zip in here. That means anytime somebody accesses any type of these file formats from these sites, it's okay. If they access it from elsewhere, for somebody else's site, the system is going to block them. Now, you have different choices. You can enter a redirect URL, so if somebody tried to access that image and they're doing so from a different site, Then you can redirect them to another page or whatever page that you want. This can be good depending on what kind of business you're in. For example, if you're a photographer and you don't mind people licensing your images, then you can redirect them to maybe a page where you're trying to sell licensing to images. Obviously, if you're not a photographer in that case, then you wouldn't really need that. But that options is just there if you want to redirect people to a certain page. Once you're done, you just simply submit, and then you click enable, and you're good to go.